Great blessing for us. Today we are the first day of Ramadan, and Sheikh Dr. Mayin, he left behind his family, his community. It is not easy thing, and I think everybody know his very famous alim scholars. He's Hafid, and he's very active. Give instruction in the school, in the college, in universities. And also he one of the member of Amja. Anybody know our Amja? Okay, good. Yeah. So inshallah today this the subject was a very important subject. It is rare to find a scholar in this area about the financial. Very difficult. I am attending many times as an Amja convention, and I get benefits a lot from him. So you are lucky here. You don't need to go to anywhere, right? So inshallah, not for the Jew, I would like to invite Sheikh Dr. Mayin, inshallah, to start the program.
في بعض الماء يا شيخ ماء أشرب ماء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم أن أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر، فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. جزاك الله خير. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر يا ربنا، لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وطبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. ثم أما بعد, first of all, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are approaching the month of Ramadan, and this is the very first night to start Salat al-Taraweeh. Inshallah will start fasting tomorrow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this month a source of barakah and blessing and forgiveness and freedom from the hellfire for all of us and for all Muslims. Allahumma ameen. Second of all, Jazakumullahu khairan all for the opportunity to meet with you. Maybe this is the very first time I'm doing this presentation here in this masjid. I'm visiting this masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, bless your leadership and whosoever get involved in arranging for this event. As it was announced, the presentation of tonight and tomorrow inshallah will be about interest-bearing transactions in the US. For those who attended Khutbah al-Jum'ah today, I said that everybody knows that riba is haram. The concept of riba is well known to be haram. Even non-Muslims know that Muslims do not deal with riba or with interest. This is not the challenge. The challenge is how to identify different riba transactions or interest-bearing transactions to be avoided. And this is actually the main focus of this presentation. We'll start inshallah tonight and we'll continue tomorrow. We have plenty of time. Tomorrow we have between Dhuhr and Maghrib. So inshallah we'll take, as they say, we'll take our sweet time breaking down the concept of riba. We'll go inshallah slide by slide to make sure that we comprehend, we digest, we understand every single concept and this presentation inshallah. First of all, let's identify the status of riba itself as a concept. Let's talk a little bit about the severity of this sin. Look at this ayah here. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. By the way, this presentation is not copyrighted at all. I'll be inshallah more than happy to give you a copy from the presentation. And if you are taking like notes, just relax and focus with me. You will get your copy, inshallah. Unless you want to take some, like write some questions, it's up to you. But the presentation is not copyrighted. I've been like distributing it for the last. So, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you read the whole Quran from the beginning until the end, you will not find a sin where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is waging war against those who are involved in the same way that you find it when it comes to dealing with riba. The beginning of the ayah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. O you who believe, fear Allah and quit taking the rest of the riba that you get involved in if you claim to be believers. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا. But if you are not willing to do so, فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Then you are waging a war, or you are allowing Allah to wage a war against you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. So again, this is the very first, the only sin where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is declaring war against those who are involved in. Different ahadith, all of them are authentic regarding the cares of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the cares of His Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam for those who are involved in riba. One of those hadith, لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم آكل الربا. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is cursing, has cursed and is cursing آكل الربا, the one who consumed the riba, the one who takes riba from others, ومؤكله, and the one who gives riba to other people, وكاتبه, and the one who facilitate and just document and write down the riba transaction, وشاهديه, and the two witnesses who facilitate, who attend the riba transaction, وقال هم سواء, and then he said they are equal. Some people think that consuming riba is the major sin. Paying riba to other people is not as severe as paying riba, as consuming riba or taking riba from other people. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying otherwise. He said, hum sawa, for those who still have some doubt that taking riba is haram, giving riba to other people is not as prohibited, as severe as consuming riba. Prophet ﷺ is saying otherwise. Believe it or not, every single individual gets involved in facilitating the riba transaction is involved in this lana. Even the one who just like the loan officer, for example, and the two witnesses, and whosoever gets involved in facilitating and making the riba easy for people to deal with is included in this lana. And when the Prophet ﷺ says hum sawa, the one who eats and the one who feeds, no one can claim otherwise. Of course, it is one of the 7 destructive major sins in Islam, dealing with riba. Maybe some people who still believe that taking riba from other people is more severe than paying riba to other. Maybe they depend on this hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات, avoid the 7 destructive major sins. قالوا وما هن يا رسول الله? They said, what are those 7 major sins? قال الشرك بالله. Of course, it goes without saying that having partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most severe sin, shirk billah. And then right after that was sihr, all the way, like sorcery, all the way until he said وَأَكْلُ الرِّبَا, consuming, devouring riba. Some people think that eating riba is haram, paying riba to other people is not as prohibited as consuming riba, and this is not correct. You definitely have to consider this hadith along with the previous one, آكل الرِّبَا وَمُؤْكِلَهُ, the one who feeds and the one who eats riba, they are in the same level. Is it difficult for to avoid in general? Of course, yes. I mean, we need to be honest with ourselves. Living your life in a non-Muslim society in general, in the US in particular, is not that easy. I mean to stay 100% away from riba is not an easy job, and this is for fact, because the global capitalist economic system actually is set up in the way in which riba is an like intrinsic component or built-in component in it. there is nothing actually called interest-free loan. I mean, it doesn't go this way. And you will hear more about this concept when we talk about subsidized loan. Subsidized loan is supposedly interest-free loan. Believe it or not, it is an interest-bearing loan. But the one who lends is the one who charges interest, is the one who pays interest on behalf of the student or the beneficiary, just to make sure that the money is not advanced or given without riba. You see, just to make sure that riba is always involved, like indulged in every single transaction wherever there is a loan contract involved. So again, the riba is a built-in component, and actually to have a balance between like living in this society, conducting business, initiating a business, upgrading business, facilitating the daily transaction is not that easy. Having said that, we are not here to just relax and like loosen the situation and just giving ourselves excuses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be obeyed 24/7. Whether you live in Makkah al-Mukarramah or you live in the US, it doesn't make any difference. It does not make any difference whatsoever. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made riba prohibited for us, which is of course the case, then we have to make sure that we stay away from it. If we find it really, really hard to continue living in a certain society because of being surrounded and contaminated with riba 24/7 wherever you go, then we definitely should consider moving to somewhere else. This is the solution, but not to try to find excuses to permit what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it prohibited. Every now and then we hear that misquoted fatwa attributed to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, or the Hanafi school of thought, if you wish, in this particular regard, which is التعامل بالعقود الفاسدة بين المسلم وغير المسلم في دار الحرب مباح. Okay, transacting between a Muslim and non-Muslims in any void, invalid transaction in the land of war, in the abode of war, okay, is permissible. That is the concept or the fatwa that's attributed to Abu Hanifa radiyallahu anh and some of his followers. So again, every now and then we hear this fatwa from some of our respected like Muslim brothers and sisters who try to legitimize or to permit or to excuse themselves when it comes to dealing with riba. Oh, according to the Hanafi school of thought, dealing with riba is permissible. So the fatwa, again, I mean, just for those who have heard it for the first time, they say that transacting between Muslims and non-Muslims in any void, any prohibited, any invalid transaction in the abode of war, fi dar al-harb, is permissible. Number one, if you want to scrutinize this fatwa from a pure fiqh perspective and compare the evidences of Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu arda and the Jumhur, the vast majority, you will conclude clearly that this fatwa is not correct, as simple as that. It is it is an isolated fatwa comparison to the Jumhur or to the three different madhahib. And when we say that Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu did a mistake, or his fatwa is not accurate, is not correct, it does not mean in any way that we degrade, Allah forbids, or we do not appreciate Abu Hanifa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that we love and respect our scholars in the same way, if not even more, that we respect even our parents. However, the fact that we have four major madhahib, well, they are not four, they are more than that. But the four major madhahib, the fact that we have four major madhahib, it means clearly that not every single fatwa and every single madhab is correct. Otherwise, why we have 3-4 different opinions, within the four madhab? And believe it or not, sometimes within the same madhab, you might find like the first statement of the imam and the second statement of the imam and a third different statement of the imam regarding the same particular issue, same particular mas'ala. So do not assume that what Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu said, or Shafi'i or Ahmad or Malik radiallahu anhum ajma'een is a Quran or a Sunnah. They are humans like us. Definitely they are way, way more advanced us when it comes to knowledge, but they did not claim like infallibility. They did not claim perfection when it comes to fiqh. They always say إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي واضربوا بعرضي واضربوا بقولي عرض الحائط. If the hadith is authentic or correct, go with it and just ignore my madhab or my statement. So again, from a pure fiqh perspective, the Hanafi school of thought is not correct. It is a very weak and isolated opinion. This is number one. And number two, according to this madhab, consuming, devouring, eating riba is permissible. So you as a Muslim can take riba from others. And those who are misquoting this fatwa, they do so to legitimize paying riba to others. And in particular when it comes to buying houses, like mortgaging houses, they just misquote this fatwa to permit for themselves like buying houses via like conventional mortgage process, depending on the fatwa of Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh. Well, Abu Hanifa permitted, assuming that the fatwa is correct, Abu Hanifa permitted taking riba from other people, not paying riba to other people. So even those who like quote this fatwa, they misquoted, they misunderstood what Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu said. And number three, they mentioned clearly في دار الحرب, the abode of war, the land of war. And again, assuming the fatwa is correct, the US for Muslims living in the US is of course not Darul Harb. It's not abode of war. It's not abode of war. We live in this society, alhamdulillah, we hold American citizenship or at least a green card or at least valid visa, and we enjoy living in this society. We enjoy the luxury and the safety and the security and the freedom and the human rights way more than what we enjoy it back in home in what's so-called Muslim world. And we are protected, by the American Constitution, by the American law enforcement. We build masajid, we build institutes, and we practice our deen, and we hold conventions. We do whatever we want. Okay. When we say abode of war, it means abode of war. It means that fighting and killing between people is permissible. No one can claim that just going outside the masjid and killing like any innocent civilian in the street is permissible. So actually the application of the fatwa, assuming it is an accurate and correct one, assuming, is not correct. Again, America for us is not Darul Harb. Because of all these different reasons, no one should misquote or quote this fatwa and try to permit for himself or herself dealing with riba because of the Hanafi school of thought, because of what I have already explained. What are the transactions that we will be inshallah discussing tomorrow throughout the whole day long from Dhuhr all the way until Maghrib? We're talking about bank loans, investment loan, personal loan, student loans in particular, inshallah we'll be talking about it. Late fees or charges. Is it okay for you whenever you receive any utility bill to wait until the due date and then you pay after that more than what you're supposed to pay? Holding credit card, the regular one, and the secured credit card. What does it mean, holding credit card? When you use it like for purchasing or for like paying bills or for cash withdrawal, what is the fiqh interpretation of holding a credit card versus debit card? Are they the same or there's a difference between the two? Opening a saving account, what does it mean? Again, if you want to interpret that transaction, your money is guaranteed and your profit on top of the principal that you save is guaranteed. Is it halal or haram? Does it involve riba in it or not? So opening a saving account versus checking account. And financing. Is it okay to finance although you do have enough cash to buy a commodity or like a piece of furniture? What does finance mean to start with? What are the options that we have in the US? In-house finance, owner finance, is it different from having a third party? If the third party is okay, why it is okay? If it is haram to finance through a third party, why it is haram? Lease to purchase option, like when you lease a car for 4 or 5 years and you have those three options, either to return the car or to replace the car with a new one or to buy it. Is there any riba involved in it? When you withdraw from your 401k, for example, as you all know, you have two options. You can borrow and you can withdraw. And if you borrow, you have to pay interest. Is there any loan contract involved here? And if the answer is yes, are you paying interest to yourself or to somebody else? Based on that, is it okay to borrow from your 401k? And by the way, what are the different options when it comes to investing in the 401k plan? What are the halal and what are the haram options? Mortgaging a house. Mortgaging a house. What does it mean buying a house via conventional mortgage process? How many transactions are combined together when you buy a house? Is it true that you have a sale contract and a loan contract and a mortgage or a lien agreement? Which one of them is halal, which one is haram? What is the default rule of mortgage? Is there any exception or exceptions applied for those who cannot afford buying a house? Is it a necessity for you to own a house? Inshallah, we'll be discussing all these details. Late registration fees in some certain transactions, if you choose to sign a contract, okay? Sometimes you are given a discount fees if you register for a service early, and you get regular fees when you register on time. And if you wait until the last moment, okay, you will be charged late registration fees. Is it really late registration fees, or it's not? For those who have built their estate or their wealth from a haram source of income, and all the way toward the end of their life they want to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while the wealth has been built from haram resources, what is the status of that wealth? Is it true that that person has to get rid of all what he or she has and just start from scratch in order for his repentance to be accepted, or there is a way to permit whatever has been collected in the past? When you go shopping, there are some monetary gifts and non-monetary gifts. Sometimes you buy one and get one free, you get a coupon, for example, you get some cash back. When you go shopping for a certain amount of money, when you open a checking account, for example, you get $100 gift from the bank. What is the status of all these monetary versus non-monetary gifts? Saving a plan for those who have credit card and they deduct a certain amount from their credit card to enjoy discount when they go shopping in certain stores, okay, certain retail stores. Is it halal or haram, riba involved in it or not? Cashing checks business. Is it okay to get a $100 check from your client and give him on the spot $90 or $95? Is it haram or halal? Warranty purchases. When you buy a laptop, you get a manufacturer warranty and you get extended warranty. Sometimes you have that warranty through a third party, sometimes from the seller himself, sometimes from the manufacturer himself. What's the difference between the three different options? For realtors or real estate agents, okay, or car dealers, where to draw a line between the halal part and the haram part in your job? Okay, you shop for the right property, for the right client with the right price. This is halal by default. However, this is not everything expected from you as a realtor. You're supposed to pick up the phone and talk to the bank and facilitate the communication between the client and the bank to get the mortgage so you can get your commission as soon as possible. Are you really allowed to get involved and facilitate for your client getting interest-bearing loan? Where to stop and just let your client move on with the mortgage application? Forex and currency exchange. Forex stands for foreign exchange. Now there is a new business called Forex. It's just an app you download, and you definitely need to get some training how to do a currency exchange online. A lot of techniques that you need to learn. My son, by the way, does Forex. So you need to take a lot of courses and you try over and over until you get confident that you can start transacting actual real money. You make profit or you incur loss. So what's going on with the Forex or the foreign currency trading? Membership fees. Is it okay to pay for a membership? Like you go to Sam's Club, for example. Do you have Sam's Club here? Okay. So you cannot, you cannot join the club, as they say, without being a member. And in order for you to be a member, you have to pay for it. And sometimes because of that membership, you get, certain privilege, like certain discounts. Sometimes you get some cash back, right? So is there any connection between the membership fees and whatever benefit, monetary or non-monetary benefit you gain? And the last thing is the student loans. Student loans, we have subsidized loan and we have unsubsidized loan. What's the difference between the two, and which one of them is allowed and which one is not allowed? Those are, I would say, the frequently asked questions. Those are the daily transactions that we face almost on daily basis, and we expect to get an answer for them. However, in order for us to come up with an answer, we have to build some fiqh background, because actually riba is a fiqh concept. It has a definition. It has different kinds of riba. Okay, riba has different kinds, and there are certain transactions who are subject to riba, and certain items who are called al-amwal al-ribawiyya, like the usurious items. So in order for us to comprehend that concept and be like able enough or eligible enough to pass a fatwa on a certain transaction by saying, oh, this is haram and this is halal, we need to build that fiqh background first to be able to answer this question. This fiqh background might be, I would say, boring for some of us. That's the nature of fiqh. Fiqh actually is a very tough topic. It's not like, interesting topic like tafsir, for example. When you go through the ayat and you read and you understand, it's way more interesting than going through fiqh. However, in order for us again to comprehend and to understand the concept of riba, we have no choice but to go through this stuff like fiqh introduction to riba. Once we comprehend, understand it well, we will be able to pass a judgment, I would say, in most of the contemporary new transactions. We don't need to bother our mashayikh and our imams. What do you think about this transaction? Because what does riba mean. You know what are the transactions who might be affected or afflicted, if you wish, by riba. You know what are the items who are subject to riba. And definitely this is based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not something that we came up by our own. So linguistically speaking, a riba actually is a kind of addition, kind of multiplication. So it means excess. It means addition. It means increase, or to add something on top of something else. And this linguistic meaning actually is included in the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. Allah would demolish the barakah of those who deal with riba, actual real haram riba. قَالَ وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. يُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ, He would multiply the reward for those who pay in charity. So yurbi sadaqat, actually riba here in this very particular ayah, okay, it reflects the linguistic meaning. Yurbi sadaqat, He would multiply the reward for those who pay in charity. Now, the technical definition of a riba, as you see, it is az-ziyadatu aw at-ta'khir. Az-ziyadatu aw at-ta'khir. It is an increase or delay. So how many levels of riba we have? We have, to start with, we have two. We have riba of increase, that's riba al-fadl, and we have riba of delay, which is riba al-nasa. This is component number one in this definition, increase or delay. Component number two, in specific assets. This actually makes it clear that not every single asset you trade in is subject to riba. There are certain items where the Prophet ﷺ indicated that, you have to be careful whenever you transact, okay, in such and such items. In particular, currency and food. Any kind of food, even if it is like McDonald's, it is subject to riba. Okay, any kind of currency, whether it is actual real bills or just checks or money order, whatever the form might be, it is subject to riba. Any kind of money, any kind of food. So we said in specific assets and specific transactions. Only certain transactions are subject to riba. So this definition has three different components. Okay, 2 by 2 by 2. Two different kinds of riba: riba of increase, riba of delay, and two different kinds of assets or categories, if you wish, food and money, and two different transactions, which are the sale contract and the loan contract. Now, this definition actually is, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of memorizing this definition by heart. الزيادة أو التأخير في أموال المحدودة في معاملات. This is the very solid foundation for what will be coming after that. Two different kinds of riba, two different items who are subject to, or categories who are subject to riba, and two different transactions who are subject to riba. Anything else is excluded. Okay, anything else is excluded. Riba al-fadl actually is the riba of increase. Okay, simply you have to pay $100 for a certain reason. You pay it 110. This is technically means riba al-fadl. Riba al-fadl actually is an increase awarded to one party in a sale. That's number one. Service, number two. Exchange, number three. Or a loan contract, number four, without providing any equivalent consideration to the other party. This is a very simple definition of riba al-fadl. As I said, you owe the other party $100. For some reason, you have to pay it 110. The 100 is okay. The $10 on top of it is not okay. This is actually riba al-fadl. How many scenarios we have? How many scenarios could be like applied or implemented on riba al-fadl? Go to the definition one more time. It is an increase awarded to one party in a sale contract. In a sale contract. I have sold my car, for example, for $5,000. This is what has been written in the agreement, in the sale contract. And I told the other party that you have until the end of May. You have like 3 more days, okay, to pay me the $5,000. If you pay successfully, then no consequences. If you pay after that, there will be some consequences. It could be $1 per day. It could be $100. We're not talking about the amount of riba. We're talking about the concept of riba. So if the 5,000 is paid more than 5,000, that is riba al-fadl, because of a sale contract. Because of a sale contract. Now a service. You receive a utility bill. Sometimes like you receive an invoice from your cell phone. You have a family plan for yourself and your wife and kids. And the total amount is $350, for example. Every single utility bill it has a due date. If you pay before the due date or by the due date, you're good to go. There are no consequences. If you delay your payment, you have to pay more. Technically, this is called a service. This is called a service. Although in reality, actually, it's a sale contract. I mean, you enjoy a certain commodity or a certain service. You pay for it. You are buying the service of wireless connection. Anyway, call it sale, call it service. If you have, if you pay more than what is written in the invoice, that is riba al-fadl, due to a service agreement or service that you have received. Exchange. Although it's not as common and prevailing nowadays as it was during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, but the ruling of it is still there. If you exchange certain kind of food with the exact kind of food with inequality, okay, you exchange, for example, a bad quality date fruit, tamr, okay, 3 pounds, for only 1 pound of date fruit, a good quality, that will be counted as riba. This is an exchange. There is no actual real currency involved. You exchange rice for rice. You exchange sugar for sugar. Exchange biryani for biryani. Whatever the example might be. If there is an inequality, then this will be counted as riba al-fadl, based on an exchange. Or a loan contract. Scenario number 4. You borrowed $1,000. Whether you know from the beginning, from day one, that 1,000 has to be paid 1,100. This is one sub scenario. Or otherwise, you borrow 1,000 for 1 month. If you pay within 1 month, no consequences, no riba. If you delay your payment, you have to pay more. Whether you go with the sub scenario 1 or sub scenario 2, that is riba. If you pay more than 1,000, whether it is stipulated, in the beginning, okay, like well known that you have to pay more than 1,000, or actually it occurred later on because you get you did not pay on time, so you were penalized extra 100 regardless. If you pay the 1,000, pay them 1,100, that will be riba al-fadl, because the owed amount was paid with surplus, with extra. So this is, as I said, like a very good definition of riba al-fadl. Increase awarded to one party in a sale contract. Remember the car issue, the 5,000. In a service contract, like the cell phone bill that you receive, exchange. Remember the tamur for tamur, date food for date food with inequality. And the loan contract, whether it is an interest-bearing loan from day one or it is an interest-free loan from day one. However, because of delaying your payment, you are subject to penalty, whatever you call it. It is interest, and this is the meaning of riba al-fadl. Now there is another kind of riba called riba al-nasa, or riba of delay. An-nasa, known with fatha actually, because an-nisa, which is a very common mistake. An-nisa means woman, right? So this is riba al-nasa and not riba al-nisa. Riba al-nasa actually is to hold or not to submit to certain items during contracting. There are certain items where the Prophet ﷺ has made it clear that in case of transacting in currency, for example, you have to make sure that there is a mutual and immediate submission. You give the American dollars and you get the Jordanian dinars on the spot, okay, while contracting. There is no time in between allowed. So if there is any intentional delay, it will be counted as riba an-nasa, deferment, delay. That's the meaning of an-nasa. There is the third kind, and I did not mention it actually purposely, which is riba an-nasi'ah. An-nasi'ah means delay. If riba al-fadl and riba an-nasa both applied, if you put them together, if you mix them up together, that's riba an-nasi'ah. Riba an-nasi'ah, an excellent example for it is to borrow $1,000 and to pay it back 1,100. You did not, you took the money, you did not pay it back on the spot because that's a loan, okay? This is actually riba an-nasa. And then on top of that, you pay the 1,000, you pay it 1,100. That's riba al-fadl. So if you add riba al-fadl on top of riba an-nasa, you end up with having riba an-nasi'ah. Riba an-nasi'ah. Only two different contracts who are subject to riba. Only loan contract and a sale contract. If there is any sale contract involved in any transaction, any business that you do, you need to be careful, because that contract actually is subject to it. It doesn't mean that every single sale contract is a haram. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَ. However, you have to make sure that there is no concept of riba involved in that sale contract. Okay? And the other one actually is riba al-qard, aqdu al-qard, the loan contract. If you get involved in a loan contract, whether you are the lender or you are the borrower, the one who gives or the one who takes the money, that's called a loan contract. You are a part of a loan agreement. There are certain criteria for the loan contract that has to be matched. If it is matched, then the loan contract is halal one, qardun hasan. If it is not matched, then the loan is an interest-bearing loan. There is a certain criterion. Has to be matched when it comes to aqdul bay', sale contract. If it is matched, then aqdul bay' is genuine, sound, good to go, as they say. If not, then it is a usurious sale. Let me just bring to your attention something important here. There is a big difference between the terminology used in the traditional fiqh books versus the actual terminology used in the contemporary transaction, especially in the US. I'll give you an example. Sometimes you find a certain charge or certain fees in a contract. It's not called riba. It's called overdraft charge. Okay. Sometimes they call it revenue. Sometimes they call it interest. Sometimes they call it dividend. Sometimes they call it service fees. Okay. Do not care about the technical terms used in the contract. Okay. Care about the actual fiqh interpretation of that charge. Okay. If that certain charge, I'll give you an example of overdraft charge just to make it simple. Overdraft charge is to have a debit card that has only $200 and you swipe your card for a transaction of $300. 99% is gonna go through, right? And then you will be surprised that you have to pay the bank $100 plus $35 overdraft charge. Well, it's not called riba, but believe it or not, as we'll be inshallah explaining later or maybe tomorrow, this is riba. Why? Because it means, again, from a pure fiqh perspective, that the bank is lending you the money. You do not have sufficient money. You have only 200, and you made a transaction of $300. What does it mean when the bank provides you $100? It means a loan. This is a loan that you have to pay it back. Now, on top of it, you will be charged $35 overdraft charge. Well, it's not overdraft charge. It is interest. So again, if it is like mentioned in the agreement or the contract or in the bank statement overdraft charge, it doesn't mean that's halal. And vice versa. If something is called interest in the contract, it does not necessarily mean that it is an interest from a fiqh perspective. I'll give another example. You want to buy a car from your neighbor, John, Mr. John Smith, okay? And that car is for $5,000 cash. And you said, you know, John, I do not have 5,000. He said, okay, I'm going to write an agreement with you, Abdullah or Muhammad, that the car is for $5,000 and I'm willing to make an installment for you or payment plan for 1 year. However, I'm going to write down in the agreement $5,000 price plus $1,000 interest. $1,000 interest. So to make it easy for you, you pay 12 payments, $500 for each, 500 times 12, 6,000, we're good to go. And he insists in writing $5,000 price, $1,000 interest. Okay. Now, is it okay for you to proceed with this transaction or not? What do you think? If it is okay, raise your hand. If it is not okay, raise your hand. Some of you did not raise their hand and neither. Like, why it is okay to go with it? What's that? No, it's not. You took the car immediately. You took the car and you started like making $500 payment plan on 1 year. There is no salam. Salam is to pay the money up front and to get the commodity later on. It's not by salam. طيب. Good try though. تفضل. Why it is halal? Yeah, but he labeled the extra 1,000 as interest. Would that make it interest or not?
No, it would not make it.
Why?
Just increase the price of the car. So now it's more expensive.
طيب. Now for those who believe it is riba, why it's haram to go with it, please?
So basically the value of the car is $5,000. So he gives him the car and he loaned him now $6,000. He didn't give him anything. So basically it's basically a loan now.
طيب.
$6,000.
Let me confuse you more. If I have a car that's worth 5,000 cash, do I have the right to ask for 6,000 or not? Yes or no? I mean, it is my car. You take it or you leave it. Well, if I do have the right to ask for $6,000 cash for a car that does not worth more than 5,000, why cannot I just make it an installment and break down that 6,000 into 1 year to make it easy for the buyer versus just charging 6,000 cash? What I want to say is that this transaction is halal. Why? Because the what's so-called riba or interest in it is not a riba. It is an owner finance. I mean, someone already owns the car, okay, possessed by the owner. So he has taken the liability and the responsibility and the collateral of holding that car. It is his car. So if he wants to ask for 5,000 cash, or 6,000 for 1 year, or 7,000 for 2 years, or 8,000 for, he can give you like unlimited options. As long as you are within the negotiation, stage, I mean, that's fine. He can give you unlimited options. However, you have to close on one option. Is it 5,000 cash, or 6 for 1 year, or 7 for 2 years, or 8 for 3 years? Once we close, that's it, we close. It means that the price could not be increased, could not be decreased. Back to my point, even if Mr. John Smith insisted in writing 5,000 price plus $1,000 interest, go ahead, sign and just pay him interest. Because from your perspective, the extra 1,000 is not an interest. I mean, this is just a price. And definitely there is something called in the Islamic finance system called the time value. Time value. Time value, by the way, time value is acknowledged, is appreciated in certain cases, and it's not appreciated in certain cases. One of the cases that the time value, or sometimes they call it the opportunity cost. Here you go. They call it the opportunity cost. Sometimes the opportunity cost is appreciated, is acknowledged, legitimate, halal, and sometimes it is not. Now, in this particular example, okay, if John Smith rejected my offer, okay, and he sold his car to somebody else for $5,000 cash, will he be able to make $1,000 profit from that $5,000 in 1 year or not? I mean, if he used that money in doing a business, he would be able to make $1,000. So he has sacrificed, okay? He has skipped that opportunity, okay? And decided to give you the car for 1 year. Now, this is the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost in this particular example is $1,000. $5,000 if you invest it in somewhere else, you will be able to make $1,000 profit. So in order for him to accommodate you, okay, he asked you for that 1,000, and he called it interest. Call it whatever you want. It's not interest. It is just they call it credit sale. There is a spot sale and there is a credit sale. In this very, very particular scenario, the transaction actually is halal, because actually the car is owned by John Smith. So $5,000 cash is okay. $6,000 for 1 year is okay. Back to the original point. Do not get confused between the technical terms, the industrial terms used in the transactions versus the fiqh interpretation of those charges. If there is a certain charge called administration fees, service fees, interest, overdraft charge, penalty, okay, do not worry about those names. Okay, you need to ask yourself from a pure fiqh perspective, is this an interest or not? In order for you to answer this question, you have to again build that background, because without knowing that loan contracts and sale contracts are the only contracts who are affected by riba, you cannot pass that judgment and say, okay, this interest is not interest, while this interest is an interest. You see? So that is I'll get back to you. So those are the two different transactions who are subject to riba. Now, again, in the real life, sometimes you get involved in a transaction, you do not think that there is a loan contract involved. You do not think that there is a sale contract involved. It's called something else. Okay? However, if you scrutinize and just double check and examine that agreement, okay, sometimes it is 80, 85, 90 different pages that you need to read in full to understand and to grasp the concept. I mean, what's going on? I mean, what kind of agreement? It could be called whatever. Believe it or not, you might find a sale contract involved, although the whole transaction is not a sale one. Believe it or not, sometimes there is a loan contract involved, although the actual agreement is not a loan contract. So you need to be cautious and careful enough to detect any sale or any loan contract in that agreement or that transaction, to be able to say, okay, this is halal, I can go for it. No, this is haram, I cannot go for it. Back to the point, only and only two different contracts who are subject to riba: loan contract and sale contract. If there is a sale, you have to be careful because there is a certain criteria has been set in the Quran and the Sunnah. If it is a loan, there are certain criteria that has to be matched. It is a sale contract. Yeah, because the extra price actually is interpreted by John Smith as interest, but from a fiqh perspective, it's not. I mean, he owns the car. If he does have the right to sell it for $5,000 cash, he does have the right to sell it for $6,000 cash. I mean, that's his car, his call. I mean, he asked for $6,000. So if he does have the right to increase the price, spot sale, then he can definitely increase the price for credit sale. So there is no riba here. If you do the exact transaction through a third party, that's a good question. If you do it through a third party, and that third party, like a credit company or a bank or whatever, or even just private investor, okay, if he pays that $5,000 on your behalf and charge you $6,000, that's haram, because actually he lended you the money. Okay, if he wants to do it Islamically, like safe and right, he has to buy the car and then sell it back to you for an extra price. I need to move on because actually we have a lot of stuff. I will stop maybe after 5-10 minutes and just open the floor for question and answer if you do not mind. Sheikh Mustafa, how much time we have? 20 minutes. Okay. You said Adhan al-Isha is at 11 o'clock? 10:45 is the Adhan? طيب. Now the question, I mean, now we know that we have riba al-fadl and riba al-nasa, riba of increase and riba of delay. And we know that only two transactions are subject to riba, loan contract and sale contract. Now the question, how does riba affect the loan contract? Loan contract actually usually has riba al-nasi'ah. Riba al-nasi'ah actually it is riba al-jahiliyyah. It is the worst case scenario. It is the worst case scenario. What is interesting here actually to know is that the common practice before the Prophet of Muhammad ﷺ, and even before the prohibition of riba, okay, the very common practice at that time was an interest-free loan, believe it or not. كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. And sometimes قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. They used to lend to one another. When the loan is due, and the borrower is not financially able to pay off the loan, he would approach the lender by saying, give me a break, give me like a grace period more, and I will pay you more. You see? So actually the riba has been initiated later on. It was not agreed upon from the beginning. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. So this scenario actually is haram. The other narrations like behind the revelation of this ayah, كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. They used to lend to one another. Once the loan is due, the lender in this case would approach the borrower by saying, listen, the loan is due. You either pay me or otherwise I'm going to charge you interest. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين. Interestingly to know here that the loan started as an interest-free loan. The loan started as an interest-free loan. And then the riba has been initiated, has been occurred later on because of the potential delay or the intention of delaying the payment, whether for a reason or for no reason. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, considered this as riba. قال اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين. Whenever you get involved in any loan contract, make sure that you do not benefit from it, period. Period means that any kind of benefit, monetary or non-monetary benefit, would be counted as riba. Someone asked me for $10,000 loan, and I said, okay, I'll give you $10,000 if you hire my son to work with you in your business. That is riba, believe it or not. I told him, you know what, I do not have a ride to the hotel. If you give me a ride, I'll give you $10,000 loan. Believe it or not, that right is counted riba. كل قرض جر نفعا فهو riba. This is a well-established قاعدة in lending money. Every single loan that derives or brings a stipulated benefit for the lender, be careful, not for the borrower. كل قرض جر نفعا فهو riba. Every single loan contract that derives or brings or stipulates a stipulated benefit for the lender would be counted as riba. So when you give money, you should not benefit, period, absolute, you should not benefit from that loan. Leave aside to charge interest like actual real money. Any kind of benefit, aside benefit, because of the loan actually would be prohibited. To the extent that the Prophet ﷺ نهى عن بيع وقرض. You cannot lend and sell. You cannot lend and sell together. Do you know why? I cannot tell you, listen, I will borrow, I will lend you $1,000 interest free. However, you have to, like on top of that, you have to buy my cell phone for $500, knowing that the market value of my phone is only $300. So I'm making those $200 aside from the sale contract with the intention of charging you interest. I'm just trying to manipulate the rule. $1,000, you pay it back to me $1,000. But you have to buy the phone for $500. And again, the phone does not worth more than $200. So I'm making interest from that loan contract through the sale contract. Prophet ﷺ نهى عن بيع وقرض. You cannot lend and sell simultaneously. It's either or. So just to make it clear that he's blocking the means of charging interest explicitly or directly or indirectly. If you want to go with the book, as they say, whenever you borrow money, you have to pay it back on the spot, because Prophet ﷺ mentioned many times that when you exchange gold for gold or silver for silver or like food for food, you have to exchange immediately. Well, it doesn't make any sense. If I want to borrow $10,000 and if I have to pay them back on the spot, then what kind of loan is it? You see, I have to take the money maybe for 6 months, maybe for 1 year, and then I pay it back to the lender. Scholars are unanimous that this kind of riba is exempted when it comes to loan contracts. When you lend money, interest-free money, then riba nasa is exempted. Riba nasa, I take the 10,000 for 1 year, okay, and I pay it back to you $10,000. Okay. Now, technically speaking, again, if you want to go with the book, this is riba, because I'm supposed to take the money and just give it back to you on the spot, and that's actually defeats the purpose of taking a loan. They said that عقود التبرعات, non-for-profit contracts or agreement, are exempted from riba an-nasa. When you lend money, you wait and you take it back with the exact amount, with the exact kind of currency. If I give you 10,000 $10,000 American dollars for 1 year, you pay it back to me 10,000 American dollars, regardless of the inflation, okay, whether it is good or bad, no inflation, it doesn't make any difference. 10,000 means I have to be paid back 10,000, no more and no less. Now, when it comes to sale contracts, again, during the lifetime of Prophet ﷺ, people used to exchange commodities. Using currency was not as prevailing, as common as it is today. So they used to exchange like food for food. Okay, I give you sugar, you give me rice. I give you orange, you give me apple, and on and on. So he set certain rules in a very famous hadith that has maybe 10-15 different narrations in Bukhari and Muslim. الذهب بالذهب, like gold for gold, والفضة بالفضة, silver for silver, والملح بالملح, salt for salt, والتمر بالتمر, date fruit for date fruit, etc. He said, مثلا بمثل, يدا بيد, هاء وهاء, فمن زاد أو استزاد فقد أربى. So he set certain rules for currency exchange and for food exchange. Okay. Now, we said many times that the usurious items are only food and currency. Any kind of currency, any kind of food. Now, how many scenarios that you could imagine when it comes to exchanging money, which is one category, and food, which is another category. Now, under the category of money, you have unlimited kinds, right? could be Jordanian dinar, it could be Saudi riyal, it could be Saudi or Kuwaiti dinar, it could be Egyptian pound. I mean, you have unlimited, items or kinds under that category, which is money. And when it comes to food, the same. Okay, so now to avoid interest, the following conditions must be satisfied. This is actually regardless of your intention, by the way. I mean, you could be like a very practicing, very religious Muslim, but you do not know the rule. So you commit riba unintentionally. And this is actually what happened with Bilal radiallahu anhu. Believe it or not, Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu, one of the people who were granted, like giving glad tidings of Jannah during their lifetime. He offered the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam a very good quality of tamr, date fruit. Prophet asked him a question, where did you get it from? قال يا رسول الله كان عندنا تمر رديء. I used to have like a bad quality date fruit and I exchanged it. So let's say for example he had 5 pounds bad quality date fruit, tamr, and he exchanged it for only 2 pounds. Prophet ﷺ said, do not do that anymore. So believe it or not, Bilal radiallahu anhu has committed riba unintentionally because he did not know the rule. So I just want to make a point here that not every single individual does riba means that he is doing it purposely. You might not be that educated in this particular field, and thus you commit riba unintentionally, innocently. I mean, you did not mean it. So to avoid interest, given that we have currency, and we have food. If you trade like within the same category and the same item, category is either food or money, right? Item or kind, like the different examples under currency. So let's go with the very first scenario. Trading in the same category and the same item, like rice for rice, for example. Again, it's not as prevailing nowadays as it was during the lifetime of Prophet ﷺ. I mean, people usually buy, paying money, and they do not exchange like commodity for commodity. However, the rules actually are still there. They are still well established. So if people get back to that time for some reason or to that practice, ruling actually of riba are still there. So if you want to exchange, for example, rice for rice or wheat for wheat or American dollars for American dollars, there are certain criteria that has to be matched. Number one, at-tamathul, equality. You pay $10, you get it back $10. It might be like a joke, right? I mean, what kind of business is this? I give you $10, you give me back $10. That's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ wants to tell us. Do not extract, do not derive, do not create money from the money that you have. Do not create money from the money that you have. You have $10, you want to make it 15, that's fine. You need to involve your $10 in an actual business. You manufacture something. You buy, you sell, you trade, you invest, you produce something that's beneficial for yourself, for the society. You take the risk of investing the money. Any kind of trade, any kind of business or investment, there is a possibility of loss. In the same way, there is a possibility of making profit. So he's telling us indirectly, do not make money from the money that you have. Okay? Involve your money in a business, produce something, manufacture something, buy, sell, take the liability, and then you can make a profit. And that's why if you exchange dollars, like American dollars for American dollars, you have to go with the book. It has to be $10 for $10. This is number one, equality. And number two, at-taqabud, mutual submission. There is no in-between time. Because if you take that money, you might lend it to others and make interest, and then you pay it back. So the Prophet ﷺ is just blocking the means of making interest. He said, مثلا بمثل يدا بيد. So mutual submission actually is a must. $10 for $10. You take it and you give your $10 on the spot immediately while contracting. And number three is finalization, al-hulul. So you cannot say, well, we exchange money, but the transaction is effective starting Eid al-Fitr, inshallah, after 1 month. No, it doesn't go this way. Okay, it has to be effective immediately. So again, as you see, very strict rules to make sure that no one is making money from the money that he has. Okay. Now this is when it comes to exchanging like rice for rice or American dollars for American dollars and on and on. Now, what if you want to trade within the same category but with different items, like Jordanian or Kuwaiti dinar, for example, for American dollars. Well, of course, equality is not required. However, mutual submission and finalization are required. I mean, you can exchange 70 Jordanian dinars, for example, for $100. I mean, this is how you make a profit, right? However, there must be a mutual submission and finalization. And if you are trading in the two different categories, then there is no riba here. There is no riba. Like you exchange currency, money for food. Okay, currency for food, food for money. Only one condition must be satisfied, which is to submit one of the items while trading. You cannot buy and sell like gentleman agreement or just having a memorandum of understanding. Okay, if I want to sell my car to you for $5,000, it's either or. You either take the car, and you give the money later on. That's called the credit sale. You pay me later on, or otherwise, as the brother said, I give you the money and you bring me the car later on. That is bay'u. That's bay'u salam. But you cannot say, okay, I have sold my car to you while I still have the car. And you said, okay, I'm going to pay you the 5,000, but you paid me nothing. And you went back home. I did not get the money. You did not get the car. This is not a sale agreement. Okay, this is just a memorandum of understanding or gentleman agreement, but it's not an actual, like, effective sale contract. Okay, that's the meaning of Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an bay' al-kali bil-kali. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited from like trading without exchanging or without submitting one of the traded items while contracting. Of course, if you trade in non-usurious items, like let's say a car for a house, money for a house, it's only one condition, which is one of the items have to be submitted, either the money or the commodity. But again, if there is no submission period whatsoever, then this is like a promise, of a sale contract, gentleman agreement, memorandum of understanding, call it whatever you want, but it's not a sale contract that takes the rules of sale contract. Of course, if any of the criteria has been like mentioned is not matched, this would convert the whole transaction to be a haram and riba one. And as I said many times, you might commit riba unintentionally. You do not know that you are doing something haram, but actually you are. User sale, which is riba al-buyu', is less common today than it was before. Again, I mean, people nowadays do not exchange food for food. You buy everything with money. Although both, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll continue tomorrow, inshallah, and the floor is open. You want to organize the questions, or you want me to take care of the? طيب, please do not ask any question related to the actual examples. I mean, this will be our topic tomorrow. If you ask tonight about mortgage, a credit card, and everything, I might be talking to the walls tomorrow. I will be here by myself. So please do not ask anything about the practical example. I mean, based on what we covered already, if you have any question, the floor is open. Let me start from my right side, from the sister side. Questions? Yes, go ahead. There is no point behind the exchange. Prophet ﷺ wants to tell you, do not make money from the money. You cannot exchange $10 for $12 because you did not do anything. That's the point. He wants to block, to prevent you from making money out of exchange. If you want to make $15 out of the $10, as I said many times, you need to engage your $10 in a business. You produce something, you buy, you sell, you trade, you import, you export, you manufacture, you do something beneficial for yourself and for the community, and then you take the responsibility and the liability and the possibility and the risk of losing that money. Based on that, you can make $15 from the 10, but you cannot exchange 10 for 15 on the spot.
Let's say, for example, dates.
That's still haram. That's still, yeah. Yeah, you sell what you have, you get the money, and then you buy whatever you want. So you have to break it down to two different transactions. طيب, brothers, this side, I'm going. Yes, sir, تفضل.
In the example that you had given, where someone made a deal with John Smith, right? In that transaction, the car stayed in the name of John Smith throughout the year while I drove that car.
No, the car is yours after you close, but you owe him that $6,000.
And one more. I have, and when you've given the definition of riba, why do you think that riba was considered? I mean, was there a reason for? I mean, of course, we don't have to question, but have fuqaha thought about the reason why riba was made haram?
It's coming.
The factor of exploitation.
You see the slide? It's coming, inshallah.
Just go back to the car example where you said, you could price the car everywhere.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So back to the John Smith question.
Why you hate John Smith? Everybody's answering. مجمع فقهاء الشريعة بأمريكا, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. Okay. Some of you might get confused with the slide. It has Al-Huda University. Al-Huda University actually has nothing to do with this presentation. It is a purely AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, just to make it clear. Sure. Sisters, do you have any questions? Sisters? تفضل. Okay.
One of the clarifications you made was about the application. Where it has interest, kind of different from what kind of transaction
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow, inshallah, whenever we talk about mortgage. Yeah, I mean, we'll emphasize the model of guidance, that there is an actual partnership between the client and guidance residential. Although you do not comply with the partnership 100%, you still have some glitches in your contract, but overall speaking, it's better than other options. Inshallah, I will be talking about it tomorrow. I like your smile, by the way, mashallah. طيب, are we up? No.